Well, Konrad, welcome to Equity Mates.
Pleasure to be here.
So we want to start with a bit of an intro to yourself and what Punter Politics is.
Yep.
So how would you describe it?
Punter Politics, I always say the tagline of the podcast, politics just for the everyday punter. It's politics simplified for the everyday punter. Everyone can get involved with the bare minimum of politics. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. I just want to, just let's pay a bare minimum of attention so we can wake up to what the bloody hell's going on in politics because we're getting screwed.
So what got you into it? Like what led you to be like, I'm going to start putting this out on social media, YouTube, start really putting myself out there?
Yeah, I think the origin story begins in a classroom at a school teaching grade 10 economics, like civics/economics. It's like one of these hybrid subjects. And I'm flicking through the textbook, just winging it like teachers do, overworked as we are. I'm just flicking through going, all right, externalities, love that topic. Because I feel like economics has ignored it completely in our society. It's like, you're making all the profit, but the downstream effects, the pollution downstream, someone else is suffering. Maybe you should pay for that or compensate that. So I was like, it's right in the textbook, fantastic. And there was this table that showed the rankings of the Australian government compared to the rest of the world with sustainability development goals. It got me thinking. I was like, there's a freaking score sheet for like how good countries are going. I'm like, fantastic. All right, kids, I want you to rank how Australia's been going. This textbook was 2017. It's like 2021 now. I'm like, all right, how we been getting better or worse? Let's find out. Have we been improving or not? You pick your metrics because there's hundreds of them and they measure them all. And I was like, you pick your metrics, come back. So the next week they come back, they go, sir, we went backwards on everything. And I'm like, well, it can't be everything. They're like, yeah, like there's like clean water, clean air, press freedom. You name the metric. 1, they measure it. 2, we were going backwards. And they look at me wide-eyed with their tears in their eyes like, sir, why? Why are we, do they know, does the government know we're going backwards? And that was the moment where I'm like I'm a teacher. We're not supposed to be talking politics. I mean, it's economics. You end up talking what's going on in the rest of the world. But I go home and I write an email to my local MP. And I'm like, here's what happened. Here's the assignment. You guys went backwards on everything. You've got no evidence to show that you were actually doing a good job. Like, do you know this? And B, what do you want me to say to these kids? Because I want to say it's because you're serving your corporate interests and your corporate donors. There's one thing that tracked really well: corporate profits, corporate monopolies, consolidation of the marketplace. All that went really well for them. But for we punts, clean air, clean water, whatever it is, press freedom, something I care about, backwards, like what's going on? And then the email back was this just generic. I don't know, have you ever written to an MP?
Yeah, we have a couple of times through the show.
Yeah, I think they have to reply.
They have to reply.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
but like you read it and you go, it's one level, it's like a bot. Now it would be a bot, but before it's just a bot human, just going copy, paste, send. We're doing lots to whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that was the moment that really kind of radicalized me. And then anyway, I went back and I'm like, all right, kids, you're going to write our MP a letter. We're all going to write one and you're going to do a report card. Give them the report card, rank it A to F. And some kids like D-, F, like on whatever they chose, and sent that off. And I was like, you want to come into the classroom and face these little punters, I suppose? And no, they didn't. They just kind of ignored it, dismissed it. And so that was kind of the moment where I'm like, politics is simpler than people think. There are things that, we can just loosely pay attention to work out if we're headed the right direction on the broad scale of things. And then, as I was probably like 6-8 months later, someone's like, you really should do like political stuff. I'm like, I don't know, it's too divisive. Everyone gets too angry about it. Anyway, then I made an Instagram reel about when I was just outraged one day, learning how much we don't get for our gas and how much Qatar gets for our gas. Made that Instagram reel, thinking Aussies don't care, they're apathetic. Whatever, as long as I can have a beer with the boys and go to the beach, we're good. And then that just got like a couple mil, and I was like, people do care.
Your first reel got a couple of mil.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yeah. So people do, and so I'm like, people do care. All right, this is what you want. There's plenty going on. Off we go.
Nice. Yeah. And so what are the areas that you really focus on or that you feel like Aussies really attached to?
Yeah, what I focus on, I try and follow. If I'm going to simplify politics, there's a million different things you can care about, be passionate about. That's fantastic. Whatever you like, go for it and get involved. But for me, I'm a big picture guy. I'm a systems guy. I studied a few economics units at university in my master's there, but I'm not an economist or anything, but I was always drawn to it, listening to economics podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, okay, other countries have explored lots of issues. We can learn a lot from everybody else. If I am to simplify politics, let's go to the big picture. And every time I followed, why do we have a problem in like supermarket price gouging? Why do we have a problem in like the banking sector? Why do we have a problem in the housing market? Why do we have a problem in the resources sector? It all comes back to these bludgers have lobbyists in Parliament, and for some coincidence, policies pass that are really good for their profits and just really shit for us. So that's kind of so the things I focus on generally around like political corruption, corporate shenanigans, which I would call corruption. Technically, it's all legal, so don't sue me. It's my opinion that it's corruption because apparently you're allowed to do it. But that's kind of what I'm focusing on because I feel like if you reform these systems and we fix the top layer of how our because we can lobby for a policy, but if the system is hard to get good policy through, we need to fix that system. So that's a lot of the topics that I'm focusing on.
Have you had any corporates or MPs reach out off the back of any of the content that you've done?
Corporates? No. I think they just went.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
I had a friend of the show tell me he did some work in like gas fracking activism or something, and he was like, mate, I guarantee that they're sitting in a boardroom in George Street somewhere going, have you bloody seen this? And I think they're smart to ignore it. They should ignore it as long as they can. But we'll see. We'll see how long they can. So corporates know. Some MPs, smaller MPs, independent MPs, often they're like, hit me up in the DMs because I have what they want. Reach to voters. You know, and I want to be as non-partisan as possible, but I want to show people how politics works as far as what I think. Policy over party. Pick a policy you want. If you think it's good, find politicians that are going to advocate for that. Just vote for them. Don't join a party. Don't advocate. Don't like always vote tribally with because you whoever voted for it or you did it the last 5 elections. Just every election, just reassess because the Labor Party changes, Liberal Party changes. They're not always the same. So just pick a policy you like. Look at how your politician votes, and that should just determine your vote.
Fortunately, there aren't always policies that we like.
Maybe more than you. There'd be one.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
if there's no policies that you like, you got to run.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on you. It's all your fault.
This is where we're going to convince you to run by the end of this conversation.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
There's some quote, and I can't find it, but it's like, if you've only voted for one political party your entire life, you're engaged in sport or religion, not politics.
I agree entirely.
Because it's like you've just picked a side and you're just blindly supporting it.
And it's even worse than that now because you get, I guess it's like sport, you get these messianic figures like Messi, like Ronaldo, right? You will worship them. They can do no wrong. They're amazing at what they do and you'll love them for the rest of your life. And I think there are now political figures. Thankfully, not in this country.
I was going to say,
no one has enough charisma here. Say what you want about Donald Trump. The man's got, he's got charisma. Whereas P. Dutz, good luck. He bloke, no charisma. Even Albo, like, you know, he could lean into his working class origins, and I think that would play really well. But I maintain, Albo, your suit's too expensive. Come down to the op shop with me, mate. We'll find you a suit that fits. Because I feel like Aussies, we want an in-touch politician. I don't know. You want to see him at the pub. You know, and if they're in that suit in the pub, you're like, oh, you're a banker on George Street somewhere in there.
Just get out the t-shirts.
Get a haircut like yours.
Honestly, if Albo's really just his mullet, Aussies won't know. They'll be like, listen, I don't like his policies, but I just got to vote for the guy. I don't know why.
I mean, it's a tale as old as time. It's like, I like that guy. I want to have a beer with that guy. Like, that was a big thing that Obama was really pushed. He wanted to be seen as the everyman.
And he had a lot of charisma.
Yeah, he did.
Good public speaker.
He drank a lot of beers in pubs on the campaign trail for that reason as well.
Did he?
Well, not heaps, but more than Albo, I'd say.
It's true.
Now, Konrad, before we jump into some of the key topics that you've covered through your videos and actually watch some of them and then have a chat about it, you have raised some cash through the community for some billboards.
Correct.
Running into the election.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Where are they going to go? What are the messages? What do you hope to achieve from it?
We, off the back of my Instagram reel that clearly Aussies resonate with, showing that Qatar makes $76 billion a year on gas. We export more gas than them. We make $2 billion. They make 76. Makes no sense. We exported more, like about double or more gas than they did. So something's not adding up. What's going on here? And so that's resonating, and everyone realizes, we are the lucky country, but we are getting screwed. And we have been getting screwed. So gas is the one I focus on. But every resource is a bit of a scam. Coal royalties are like 10, 12% tops. New South Wales is quite low. Queensland's just upped them. But you've got those royalties that, if you compare to Norway is taxing them at 78%. And guess what? They're still drilling oil.
Yeah.
And that's what the Norwegian president at the time was saying. He's like, they said they'd leave. Oh, they haven't.
Yeah.
So anyway, so off the back of that, I'm like, Aussies need to know about this. They need to know that their resources that they own, because we all collectively own whatever's in the ground, is just being siphoned to US companies, Japanese companies, Chinese companies. They are getting the gas for free. They are on selling it, making billions of dollars, $40 billion, $100 billion. They're not paying tax. They're not paying royalties. So put that out there. I thought, it might be funny to get a billboard, crack the corporate media sphere, try and get those boomers who are watching Channel 9, or driving to work. And I thought billboard would be funny. Okay, I'll put a GoFundMe, make a nice little storyline for the podcast that we got going and see how that goes. And we ended up raising initially 30 grand. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. So then I posted about it on Instagram again. I was like, wow, this is amazing. We raised 30 grand. And then from then it went up to $85,000, over 2,000 Aussie punters just donating $1, $5, $10, a few $100. So clearly everyone's really behind this. They see a good return on investment if politicians can talk about this. Right now, Albo and Dutton do not talk about it. They do not mention it. They do not do anything. Labor apparently tried to reform the PRRT, which is the rule that the petroleum resource rent tax, which is the rule as to that isn't working to get us what we ought to. But then our revenue went down again this year, so I'm not a bean counter. I don't know exactly why, but we're still getting scammed, it looks like. So yeah, putting the billboards up, I think we've got enough for 15 across the country.
Nice.
So, the punters on Patreon who fund me, they voted and they said, you should have your face on the billboard. So now my face is going to be on billboards across Australia. So there'll be a few in Sydney, a few in Melbourne, Perth, and then some. I won't give it all away.
Nice.
I don't want these billboard companies.
When should we be keeping an eye for them?
When? Probably 3 weeks from today, which is the
from
18th.
mid-Feb.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, March, the month before the election, they're going to be sort of up everywhere. So treasure hunt. If you find them, take a picture. Tag me on Instagram. I'll share it out there.
Love it. We will.
Punter's Politics on Instagram, if people don't follow. But if you're not following yet, I reckon you will be after we watch some of these videos. So we've pulled out a bunch that resonated with us. So we'll watch them and we'll just we'll have a chat about them. And I think this is the one that sparked it all. Tell me if it's not.
Got taken down.
It's the repost. It got taken down, so I put it up again.
What's the story there? Do you know why it got taken down?
I don't know. I think my account was so new that maybe some disgruntled Santos employees or something maybe reported it or something, and then it got removed. It also could have been, I think I had on the caption before, it's like, Aussies are dumb. Maybe they're like, that's racist. I don't know.
There's been far worse things said.
Are you telling me that that's not the worst thing on the internet?
What? All right, well, let's stop talking about it and let's see what all the fuss is about.
Boy, how much tax are you paying?
Do I have to pay income tax? How much is it?
How much?
0.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Property tax?
0.
Inheritance tax?
Nothing.
What if I'm running a business?
No tax at all.
Okay. And you also get free healthcare, free education, and heavily subsidized housing.
Yup, you don't need to pay a single thing.
Fine. How? How?
Qatar is the world's largest supplier of liquefied gas.
So all we need is gas. We have gas. No, more than you.
Come on, guys.
But even though we export a lot more gas than Qatar, Qatar collects 20 times more tax on gas than we do.
Qatar's awesome, isn't it?
How much money from gas did Qatar get? 76 billion? So how much did we get? 2 billion. What the
So that's the video that started it all.
Yeah.
What was the reaction like when you posted it?
I just was shocked that Aussies cared. I had a realignment of what I thought Australian political engagement was, because the mainstream story is like, oh, everyone's disengaged, they don't care, they're too comfortable, they're too whatever, and we just victim blame Aussie punters for not caring. And I think when it's put in a way that people understand, people care. It's just often not.
And so people watching this video and seeing what's happening in Norway, seeing what's happening in Qatar, it feels like a slam dunk for the politicians to come out and just be like, let's do what they're doing. Like an absolute slam dunks. But in your view, what is the root cause of this? Why is it so difficult for them to come out and just be like, let's do this.
Yeah, I think they're just afraid. I think the Labor Party would be more likely to do it than Liberals, but they lost an election. Well, the story is, and this is the electoral things that happen, like mythology about why politicians lost elections come into being. And one of them was Gillard put in super profits tax for, I don't know if it was royalty related, but she tried to attack him a little bit.
Yeah.
They dropped these mining cartels. Sorry, corporation. Sorry. They dropped millions into confusing Aussie punters.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think Aussie punters just didn't realise what the difference between a royalty and a tax was.
Yeah.
And you'll see it in the ads. You'll see scare campaigns from Queensland just up their coal royalties. And the campaign was, Queensland government is upping the royalty tax. It's not a tax, it's bloody royalty.
Yeah.
A royalty is what you get for selling something.
Yeah.
It's our coal. We sell it to you, Santos, or who's a Whitehaven coal. We sell it to you. You pay us for that.
Yeah.
And we get money for it, and you can then on-sell it if you want to make money for it. And so I think, the scare campaign worked. And so I think, Labor just wants power. That's all politicians want. They just want power.
But it feels like, for me, the messaging here is just so clear that it surely should be able to overcome the millions spent by industry
You'd think
on
so.
the other way. Like, it's just like, guys, did you just see what that guy said about taxes in Qatar? Like, do you want that?
I think
I've done his job for him. Albo just needs to do a duet on TikTok with me and go, we'll tax and I'll vote for you.
Yeah.
If you do that, you got me straight away.
I think the messaging out of Queensland, they've done it quite well because they've tied the increase in coal royalties with the 50-cent public transport fares.
Tried to make it tangible for people.
Yeah, so they're like, this is essentially what you're paying for. Whereas like the problem with some of it is it's so ethereal. It's like, hey, we're going to have this future fund or this sovereign wealth fund over here and trust us, there'll be benefits. But you won't.
Which is the smarter thing to do.
It is definitely. Look at Norway.
Yeah, exactly. They still tax their nation, but when their oil runs out, they now have converted their oil into a money printing machine.
Yeah. One of the biggest financial institutions in the world now, the Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund.
It is the biggest. Isn't it?
It's what could have been.
And it still could be. I mean, we've pissed away more than half of it. But we still got a lot of resources.
Yeah, well, I think this is something that people sleep on. It's like we look backwards and we say coal, and now gas is like a transition fuel, and we're in the middle of it. But if you look at like the metals for the next generation, it's going to be things like nickel and iron ore is still going to be important. But like all these green metals, Australia is blessed to have all of them. And Indonesia and Australia, we both have the same amount. We're both co-equal in terms of nickel. We have the equal largest nickel reserves in the world. Indonesia has probably gone too extreme the other way. They don't let miners export nickel. If you want to use Indonesian nickel, you got to refine it in Indonesia and use it in Indonesia. So they're trying to get like Tesla and everyone to come to Indonesia.
And that's not good, you reckon?
It's hard to convince people to set up a factory in Indonesia.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could work.
If they need bloody nickel, I don't know. If they can go somewhere else, maybe they will.
But then for us, it's just...
But how many...
Take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're not even... maybe they're negotiating too hard.
Yeah.
We just rolled over and went, you can have it for free. So we could still be this stuff. And I think Aussies instinctually understand this. I think we know that we are wealthy, and then we look at our bank accounts, we can't buy houses, we can't do things, and we go... But I thought we were the lucky country.
Well, speaking of that, I think this is something that Aussies get because we have the equal most gas in the world, and yet we have a gas shortage.
Yeah, I can't believe this.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I know.
Oi, Qatar, do you have a gas shortage? No, we own and control all of our gas. We make sure we have enough to use here before we ship it overseas. Yeah, obviously. Hey, Norway, you've got a lot of oil. Do you ever get oil shortages? No, it's our oil. The only way that would happen is we were dumb enough to let a foreign corporation take control of our oil. Can you imagine someone being that dumb? Not really. Letting a private corporation control something as vital as a country's energy resources. Like, countries go to war over this stuff. Can't even imagine. Well, hang on, let me try. Nah, I literally can't imagine what someone that dumb would look like. The kind of idiot that would give away billions of dollars. I mean, billions of dollars for free. Just, here you go. How would that even work anyway? I mean, at least the citizens of the world's dumbest country would at least get what? Free gas and energy before some foreign corporation literally made billions? No, we buy it off them. Hey, Australia, do you have a gas shortage? Yeah. I'm sorry. You're the idiot that's given full control of your resources to foreign corporations. Yep.
What's it like watching yourself, by the way?
I'm just desensitized to it because I do all the editing, I do everything, so I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
and who doesn't love the sound of their own voice?
Yeah.
This one gets me so much because it's not only that we let it happen, but it's that we know there's a policy. Like WA has a gas reserve policy
In our own country.
Yeah, where there's a certain amount that has to stay in the country, and there's no shortages in WA.
Yet.
Well, not as bad.
They've just
as
started
the Eastern
winding back
Seaboard.
some of that stuff, but yeah, so
Yeah.
we get even dumber.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just like that for me. It's like there's a model. We could just emulate it on the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey, why is gas cheaper in WA?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, we had a reserve policy. That, coincidentally, Kerry Stokes, the billionaire, his gas mine was exempt from the reserve policy.
Right. Okay.
Well, just for some strange reason. Couldn't tell you why.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also, so I think, again, people watching this thinking why, a lot of it comes down to what we just have ridiculous contracts with overseas commitments that we have to be sending gas overseas.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, we just choose to do it.
We
Yeah,
forget.
yeah.
We buy into this narrative that I think corporations want everyone to believe. And it's built on like a tiny bit of truth, like it's half true. In order, for businesses to operate and be successful, they need stability in rules and they need to be guaranteed that the government's not going to come in and wreck what they're doing. Sure, that's true. But we make the bloody rules. If you're scamming us, we as a people can change the bloody rule book. It's like, and you think about like sport, we mentioned that before. If one team is just dominating because they've got so much more money than everybody
Change
else.
the draft.
They changed the bloody draft. The NBA, the loser picks first.
Yeah.
They just made that rule one time.
Yeah.
And then the sport gets better. It's not like anti-basketball to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
certain rules.
And it's
Yeah,
like just
good
this
point.
sovereign risk argument of it's just like I feel like resources are this one industry where it's different because it's not like we need a certain mining company's know-how or a certain mining company's a people or IP to come and extract gas or coal. It's like change the rules, let companies make investment decisions on the back of that, and if they choose not to invest, there are other mining companies waiting in the wings.
And this might be too extreme for some people. We can bloody do it ourselves.
Wow.
That's pretty extreme.
It's a crazy idea. Like, we have public transport, we have firefighters, we have police, we have public housing developers, we have...
I mean, we've got... Oh, you mean the government does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Or the government, like Norway, once again, can it be done? Norway's done it. They're a shareholder in it.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
partner with
Yeah.
a corporation that wants to do it as well. And you can set up these structures. Once again, people get too stuck in the government doing it means communism, private market means better. I think corruption is corruption. It can exist in corporations. We see it all the time. You see it in government. You see it all the time. It's how is the system set up. So you can set up a good system that doesn't end up like Venezuela. It's called Norway.
Yeah. And even if corruption's too hard a word, because
Sorry, no corruption here.
I kind of have this view that like corporations are just dumb profit maximizing machines.
Agree.
And all they do are collections of people that run towards incentives as hard as they can.
Yeah.
And as incentives change, behavior change.
Yeah.
And so it's like just change the playing field.
Yes.
And like there are so many examples of that outside the resource industry in jobs that we've worked. Like we came from big corporates and.
I knew you got me. Hang on, is this door locked?
And it's like the majority of people are just regular punters who are just trying to earn a paycheck and trying to do the right thing. And we're in this system where there are certain incentives and people just respond to incentives.
Fully agree. Fully agree. Except there's one thing that the corporates has worked out that is really hard to overcome. And they worked out that, you can innovate to make profit. That's one way. You could invent a new product, maybe market a bit more, your profits go up. Or you could just donate to a politician and you could just buy a few lobbyists. And then, even better, you can buy ex-staffers from the government, bring them into your company. They have all the connections. And then when someone leaves your corporation, they can go into government. And what do you know? Oh, we just met in the hallway at the cafe. Hey, could I get an ear of our elected representative? And then they go, you know what's an easiest way to make profit? Rig the bloody rules. And that's kind of where a lot of Australia's economy is at. And so when good economists say, guess what? More competition in a marketplace is actually a really good thing for a lot of things. And the US has anti-monopoly laws and break up divestiture powers and things like that. They have those powers. They can be used. We don't have them. We can't.
No, we have anti-monopoly laws.
Yeah, probably.
Australia is actually...
We just don't have divestiture powers.
Yeah,
we can't just say, break them up.
Australia's actually better than a lot of the rest of the world. It's just that the Australian corporate regulators don't get listened to by a lot of the rest of the world.
Okay, we got rules. Great, I stand corrected. We got rules. They just got like
the rest
a
just don't
little
have a whistle.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
excuse me.
Yeah.
Hey, could you please? Oh no, you're just gonna. Okay.
All good.
Classic example is like Google tries to buy Fitbit globally,
Okay.
and the US regulators and the European regulators sign off on it, and the Australian regulators are like, whoa. It's like, these are two multinational corporations, you know, like they're not listening to Australia.
But even like within just Australia, within just our ecosystem just here, the point I'm trying to make, because like you can go into policy and what should or should not, how this should take shape. But the broad picture is corporates work out they have more money when they're a monopoly when there is no competition. So what they'll do is use their exorbitant money and power, like CommBank's now clocking 10 billion a year consistently. Yeah, our politicians, they're the cheapest in the world. They got to be. Probably not the cheapest in the world. But you look at the political donations from these corporations. 50 grand for the Nationals from some of these mining companies.
I know.
50 grand.
Yeah.
I can fundraise that. I will.
It's wild.
Later in the year.
Fundraise that.
I'm going to do a fundraiser to try and buy a politician.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my
I
next
often do think about that, just comparing the money in Australia versus US.
I know.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
these guys get like that, they care about 50 grand.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, yeah, dollar goes a long way in Australia. It's like, yeah.
It goes
but
a
where's
very
that?
long
Does
way.
50 grand go, like,
Gets a few billboards.
but on the other side, yeah, it's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, look, before we go too far down that rabbit hole, speaking of companies that have an outsized influence on setting the rules, we wanted to pivot away from resources and talk about tax avoidance more generally, because this video is about an Australian company that we all know, but the tax setup I had no idea
Yeah,
about.
this
So
was
Okay.
wild.
yeah,
It'll be a very loose overview from me.
it's not just anger and vibes we're getting from your channel. We're also learning things.
Yeah, be careful. I put the citations there for a reason, everybody.
So that's what I said. Get this. It's poor people wasting all your money. I'm telling you, this culture war thing has made me so much money. It says here you've paid zero in taxes for like 5 years. No, like 10 years. Oh, the whole tax thing. Yeah, we don't have a bank account, so... What do you mean you don't have a bank account? You've made $14 billion. Yeah, but we spent it all. We had to pay interest on that loan that we have. A loan? To who? Well, to him. But that's just you. In the Cayman Islands. Oh, really? No way. Oh, hey, listen, could we get some more money? More? We already gave you 10 million. Oh, you don't do anything to help me. Oh, come on, that's not true. We also gave you that 30 million. So? And did we give any others the opportunity to apply for that money? No, but you hate journalism. Hey, come on. Remember that time I forced Facebook and Google to pay their tax dollars to you instead of giving it to Aussie punters? And we didn't even say you had to spend it on actual journalism. I would hate for someone to run propaganda against you at the next election. No, okay. I'll give you another grant. Thank you. Hey, look, a person below the poverty line is taking $20. Not on my watch. Wait, you need to work for that?
It's good. It's good stuff. Yeah, that tax structure where the local subsidiary borrows at exorbitant interest rates from the global parent company. It's pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
And it's like the crazy thing about that Michael West article, if you want the exact details, that's me trying to understand it. It's so bloody complex. That's technically inaccurate because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
But that's roughly what happens. But in that Michael West article, you'll see him outline more exactly how it happens and how just the loopholes that they just go through in order for them to be able to get away with this sort of thing. So definitely look at that article.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be a Foxtel thing either. I imagine that's set up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called the Singapore Sling. Oh, similar, not quite
sells
the same.
products to a subsidiary. It's kind of reverse, isn't it?
The classic example of that is what Microsoft did. So Microsoft negotiated a sweetheart tax deal in Puerto Rico, and then put all their intellectual property in their Puerto Rican subsidiary, and then Microsoft US had to pay their Puerto Rican subsidiary all of their profits, the equivalent of all of their profits in like licensing
Coincidence.
fees.
Oh, it's exactly the same amount.
It's this intangible asset. They go, how much was it? I
Yeah.
did one on that where it's like, how much? 4 billion?
Yep.
5 billion. Hey, that's how much it was. Because even in that Westy article, he even talks about that the ATO know that they're doing this. In the article, it quotes that the ATO, one of the organisations, has said like Foxtel is a tax avoidance risk. They know that they're doing this.
Yeah. But that's the thing with loopholes, isn't it? It's like they'll keep doing it as long as it's there.
Well, I even think technically they're not.
It's not illegal.
That's my
the thing.
point.
Well,
like they'll keep doing it.
I think technically with some of this stuff, it's kind of on the fence, and because you can take a loan from different entities, but it's just whether they suspect that you're gouging yourself an own loan, and so they could even, I think, fact checks welcome, citations necessary. I think that if they were aware and had the resources to crack down on it to prove it, but once again, I don't know, to outrage everyone even more, even when they get caught, like let's name drop Chris Ellison, the ex-Minres, well, you guys probably be around that, scammed his shareholders, similar thing, company offshore that he was the owner of or whatever, renting equipment, whatever it is. Bloody, he got like some negotiation. When was the last time the ATO knocked on your door and said, hey, Konrad, you owe us $2,000, but listen, give us $50 and we'll just call it even.
Because he went to them being like,
whoops.
Do you want to chat? Do you want to chat about this?
So when I kill somebody, I'll go to the cops about, listen, I'm coming to you. I could have made you catch me. All right. Manslaughter it is.
So look, we could talk about corporations all day, but that's not the only part of the Australian economy that you focus on. Housing is obviously a big focus area as well. So we've pulled out a couple of videos that can sort of kick us off.
No, I've already got 2 jobs. Oi, how much are kidneys worth? OnlyFans, right. Oi, are you 2 blokes going to do anything about how hard it is to buy a house? I mean, Duddo, you know how hard it is, struggling to afford rent, saving money to buy a house, don't you? I mean, you've already got a couple of houses. No, you just sold some. Your property was worth $6 million. Geez, I thought you were a cop. Oh no, you made your money through property investing. Right, so you're more of a property investor. Well, I mean, Albo, you're from Housing Commission, you get it, don't you? I mean, yeah, you've got 2 investment properties. One just sold for how much? $5 million. I guess the housing market hasn't been bad for everybody. But I mean, you both say you want to make houses more affordable. But in 20 years of trying to make them more affordable, you've only managed to make the prices go higher. It's almost as if you guys benefit from higher house prices. This $54 million in donations from property developers to both your parties, that wouldn't have impacted your policies, would it? I mean, I don't want to do your job, but we want to make houses more affordable. Don't we want to lower property prices? Oh, no. Sorry, I'm an idiot. For some reason, I was thinking that housing was meant to be a public good, accessible to everyone. I'm not so dumb. I understand that it's meant to be an investment vehicle for wealthier Australians and corporations to grow their already considerable amounts of wealth. What was I thinking? Can you sell both kidneys?
Oh, where to start? Where to start?
Always the most controversial part of our
All right, guys, it's been great.
no one is on the fence on this issue. No. So where do you start?
I don't know.
Well, I've got some stats. I think we pulled it up. So federal politicians on average own 2 properties.
Yep.
I think specifically Labor MPs hold an average 2.4 and Liberals 2.3.
Which is surprising
significantly higher than the general Australian population, where only 15% own investment properties.
That sounds right. I think I remember seeing something similar.
Labor outdoing Liberal, I wouldn't have picked.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The other thing that I think that Ren and I talk about a lot on the show, and you kind of brought it up there when you said, you know, you been trying to do things to improve housing affordability. I think there's the affordability pieces where all policies that come through are actually like, how can we give people the opportunity to buy a house rather than how can we actually reduce house prices? It's like every policy is putting more money effectively in people's hands, which like obviously voters vote for and whatnot, but the effect of that is that there's just more demand on house prices.
Eventually we end somewhere.
And
In my generation.
yeah.
Or the next one.
And given that 2.5 properties per politician, it's like, what incentive do they have personally to reduce house prices? But then secondly, because so much of Australia from a wealth building point of view is so tied to their house price that like falling house prices is game over for any politician.
No quicker way to lose an election than for house prices to fall.
Like you've got to you've got to change the cycle.
Well, until there's enough people who don't own houses, until that like electoral math shifts, which eventually it would. If this trend continues, eventually there would eventually be more renters than homeowners. But we're not even close. We're not even close.
Yeah.
And I think to get things on the record with things as controversial as house prices and things, I think like a lot of my stuff in there comes from like Alan Kohler.
Yeah.
His analysis on housing, and Cam Murray, his stuff on housing, which Alan Kohler is very conservative in kind of what he's saying. He's bare minimum saying, let's just stop pumping them for a start. Let's just level that and then allow like, we'll burn the millennials and Gen Z, you're screwed. But then the ones after, wages might have caught up, right? But then there's hope for the future. And so I think what happens is it so quickly turns into a straw man of like, oh, you want to bomb house prices, wreck the economy? Probably would. Like, probably a really bad thing for everyone's wealth to just drop through the floor. That sounds like a bad bubble bursting. Let's not do that. But like you said, the money going in and house prices going up, where does it end? And I feel like we can see the end of the train tracks. But politicians are just too afraid to do anything.
Well, one of the policies on the Liberal side, isn't it, to try and give people first home buyers access to their superannuation? And that is wild.
I'll let economists debate whether that would continue the same trend of handing more people money to put into the property market.
That's exactly what it would do.
We're not economists. That's exactly what it would do. And it also just completely erode their superannuation balance over the next 40 years.
And it would just entrench inequality because people with higher super balances are people who earn more, and then they could pull more out, and then they could pay more.
Wild
You're just
policy.
you're just entrenching everything that's wrong.
Recommendation. I don't know if you've seen. Have you listened much Cam Murray on superannuation?
We've had him on the podcast.
Oh, has he talked superannuation?
Mainly housing.
Okay. Yeah. Him on super is really good. He made me hate super.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
So
Why do you?
Because he's essentially saying it's a less efficient insurance scheme that the government can do for a third of the cost, and it skews to wealthy people. But
that's interesting.
I'll let him make those, because we subsidise it, but the people that get most of the benefits from the subsidies are people that don't need the money in retirement anyway. So it just becomes a vehicle to siphon money to your kids, like at a lower tax rate.
And so he wants to go back to like a social security system.
He's just like, it's cheaper, it's more efficient. There's two things the government's bloody good at: taking your money and giving out checks.
Dishing it out.
Guess what insurance is? So that's his argument, but I'd let him make it. But that's like beside the point sort of thing there. But it's like, where do we end up with the housing thing? It's like, we have to do something. Because when I zoom out, I'm just looking at the macro stuff going, where does this end? What's going on? And I think there is this ingrained culture in Australia, like you said, it's a vehicle for building wealth. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. And I think there are other countries to look at to go, the house is more akin to a stable consumable. In Japan, it's consumable. And so people go, because houses deteriorate over time, just like, it probably shouldn't devalue as quickly as a car. But, if you have to buy a house and then rebuild another one, it does seem like the trajectory should be like that. But it's still an asset that you can, you can still get ahead financially, even if it's not boosting in
value.
Capital growth.
It's
not my field.
we always point to Germany. I think 50% of the population in Germany rent.
Long-term renters.
Long-term renters.
Who owns those houses that they're renting?
Oh, I mean, like,
but
Germans.
there's also there's also
But
caps around how you can treat rental properties. So it's not like you can just have half of the people going and buying all those other half, jacking rents and like profiteering from it. There are rules around like long-term. To your point, it's treated as security house over the, roof over your head. Go and build wealth. in other ways.
Which is a brutal, like when you really map that out, Australia's so far behind because I know heaps of people that own properties and people with rentals and they're just everyday people. But the question becomes, should a random mum and dad be in the position of providing something as necessary as housing? Because housing requires, you know, proper heating, proper things, you have to have it to a certain standard. It's like houses in Australia are crap. Like, then when I'm in Newcastle in winter, I don't run my gas heater for obvious reasons. I can't afford it. It's bloody cold. I mean, and then I was just in Japan in the middle of winter. There, I'm toasty as.
Yeah.
So something's going on
Yeah.
with our insulation and things like that. So our houses aren't built that well.
Yeah.
But we do have this idea that, like, there's so many different arguments with the rental market. If it's controlled by, like, lots of individuals, then it becomes a lot harder to kind of regulate if housing is. And I think this is the conversation Aussies need to have. Is it like medicine and healthcare, which all of us can agree, conservative or progressive, whatever it is, everyone should have access. And you probably shouldn't be able to pay money to jump the queue, right? That's kind of the basic tenet of healthcare, you know?
Although we do have a private healthcare
health
system where you can jump the queue.
Exactly my point, which Canada doesn't. Because I
Yeah,
was just looking into the healthcare system. I'm really anti our private healthcare system because the richer people can jump the queue. But let's go back to this thing that we think it is. Everyone should get access to it. And everyone should have it. And so the question becomes, is housing that? And if the answer is yes, we have to treat it differently. If the answer is no, then we've got the perfect system.
Yeah. It's interesting. Cam Murray, I didn't realize this would be a big Cam Murray
Yeah,
but he has a similar model for housing where he wants to see like a two-speed market, like a government-controlled market and a private market similar to healthcare. And like that's a model that I think, did he point to Singapore?
Singapore's the example he uses.
Yeah.
I'm not an economist, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Like, because that's if we do decide that housing is like medicine, because this is the example I use with Americans, like, do we really need to learn the lesson that America's learned with healthcare? Every Aussie knows that healthcare to the highest bidder is the dumbest system in the world. America spend the most per capita on healthcare. Now I'm Bernie Sanders.
And
get the worst outcomes. 50% of bankruptcies are due to health. Doesn't happen in Australia. How great's that? How good are we? The question is housing the same as that? Because if it is, when you introduce the government as a player, it introduces a flaw to the product. A private health insurance can't be worse than what you get for free on the government. So all of a sudden, your private healthcare is going to be at least this. Otherwise, they can't exist as a product. So housing potentially could be, you get very basic but good, adequate government housing. You want more premium? There's a whole market for you. But you can't be worse than this, otherwise you can't exist. Whereas right now, houses are terrible and people are paying through the nose for them. That would be my layman's, non-economist understanding of housing.
Yeah.
God, it's wild.
So we've watched a number of videos. People, if they want more, should head to your YouTube or Instagram. I assume
podcast.
I assume TikTok as well.
I'm on everything. I'm even on LinkedIn.
How's that going?
Not well. Santos doesn't
Corporate
engage
profile,
with
yeah.
me. Yeah, they were stalking me though. I got a notification being like, these people are looking at your profile, and Santos was one of them. I was like, whoops, it easy.
Wow, imagine if you took a job there, just sold out.
Yeah, big
All of a
money.
sudden I disappear and I'm like,
Yeah.
on my LinkedIn, like, scrub
you
it.
just
Three
talk
houses.
shit about Woodside.
Yeah.
It's like, Santos is
Hey,
good.
they, I'm like, they could just be like, hey, listen, just leave our name out of it. And I'm like, Woodside, Impacts, I've got plenty more I can pick on.
Yeah.
I'll pick on the lowest bidder.
Sure.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right, well, any corporates, if they want to reach out. All right. But we wanted to close out with this video because I think it's very easy to throw stones. And, we all can point at things and we're like, that's broken, that could be better. But we appreciate that in one Instagram reel, you managed to solve it all.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
I didn't know. Did I do it?
Oh, no way. What? I think this might fix the housing crisis. Fair income, seriously? How? Well, you know how we just don't have enough houses, too much demand, not enough supply. Yeah, well, the government's just gonna build more houses, build them and then sell them to us at slightly more than the cost of construction. How? Well, take our tax dollars and just build houses with it. How are we gonna pay for that? Well, get this, Australia has now just started taxing our gas and mining companies just like they do in Norway and Qatar. Struth, that's $90 billion a year from the gas industry alone. So now billions of dollars from our mining resources go to All Aussie citizens instead of like Gina Reinhardt and a few Indian mining billionaires. Crikey, seriously. Yeah, Australia now has a sovereign wealth fund just like Norway. No, in fact, it's bigger than Norway's. We are now the richest citizens in the world. Stone the flaming crows, how is that even possible? Albo just woke up this morning and stopped taking political donations from mining companies and foreign corporations. Bloody-o. And Peter Dutton and Matt Canavan floated the idea of cancelling all student debt. Dutto and Cosplay Canavan. Yeah, Dutto said something like needing to train Australian population to produce high-skill industries to compete better overseas. So, university's now free. Yeah, so this is my last video. Politics is fixed. Guess not really needed anymore. Yeah, so thank you punters for all the likes and sharing with other punters out there and helping bring awareness to the corruption that is going on in politics. So this is it from me. So thank you again.
Love that. If only if it was that easy.
Is it that simple?
Be.
Well, let's find out.
Yes.
I'm willing to try.
Ban political donations, tax the resources industry, use that money to build houses, make university free.
Yeah. Easy.
See what happens.
Easy.
Prove me wrong.
Put that on a billboard. Yeah, that's good. Prove me wrong.
Prove me wrong. I'm happy to prove me wrong. Do it all and we'll see. He was wrong, guys. He was wrong.
Yeah. Well, we'll be keeping an eye for the billboards, Konrad. Thank you so much for coming on. Love what you're doing, and we'll put a link in the show notes for all your channels, including LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to hang out.
Thank you.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.